On the evening of Halloween in 2002, Christopher Jenkins, a college student and star athlete from Minneapolis, attended a keg party at his own home. The Halloween night would soon turn into a nightmare for Christopher after he and some of his friends made their way to a bar in downtown Minneapolis. After being kicked out of a bar in downtown Minneapolis, he was left stranded in the cold, dressed in his Halloween costume, with no ride home and without his wallet, keys, or phone. Chris never made it back to his residence that night, and his family and friends grew increasingly worried. 4 long months passed before his body was finally found in the Mississippi River. But what really happened to Christopher Jenkins that Halloween night? Was it an accident, a suicide, or was it something more sinister? We will now delve into the mysterious and tragic death of Christopher Jenkins. Welcome back to Weeknight Mysteries. My name is Yuras. As every week, I'm joined with my co host, Rain. How are you doing today?
Hello, everybody, and hello, yours. I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm good.
How
Um,
was the rest of your week, by the way?
it was pretty good. I think um, uh, jam packed with all kinds of things, but I think
Mm-hmm.
we kind of once more had a little break on the podcast. But I think it's due to the fact that we're um, trying out new ways of researching cases
Mm-hmm.
and I guess making the podcast more efficient, I would
Yeah.
say, at least with this week. We have a case about Christopher Jenkins. We have a 21-year-old college student who's also a star athlete. He was a goalie in his university's lacrosse team who died. We kind of suspect that he also died on the 31st of October in 2002, which was the Halloween night. And we will go in, I guess, through the details, what we know
Mm-hmm.
so far about the case. I think we can immediately jump to the day in question, which was once again October 31st. Christopher Jenkins, alongside with some of his friends and his girlfriend named Ashley Rice, was having a keg party, apparently at his own home. What do you think is a keg party? Because from what I understand, it's basically people just drinking beer
Mm-hmm.
out of like kegs.
Yeah, from my understanding, that's the same thing. I kind of always pictured like an all-American party with like red cups.
Yeah, yeah, I had that same vibe when I was reading through the story here.
Mm-hmm.
At 6 p.m. that evening, they left Christopher Jenkins' home. Well, Christopher,
Mm-hmm.
alongside with his girlfriend and some of his friends, and they actually went to downtown Minneapolis because this is all happening in the basically in Minneapolis, and they went to a bar in downtown called the Lone Tree Bar and Grill. Now, only a few hours after arriving, Christopher was allegedly kicked out of the bar due to uncertain circumstances, and he was left in the cold. And he was actually still wearing his Halloween costume.
Yeah.
And one of his friends actually drove him to the bar, so he actually also did not have any way to go back home. Now, there are very, like, let's say, different takes
Mm-hmm.
by reported by different people why exactly Christopher Jenkins was kicked out of the bar shortly after arriving there. One of the takes
Mm-hmm.
is that he apparently potentially spilled a drink on his pants, and it almost seemed that he had urinated himself. And the security working at the bar assumed that he had basically pissed his pants,
Yes.
and that's why they kicked him out. Now, the same staff who was working that night at this bar many years after the fact, I think, during some TV show that kind of brought this case back to light, they were questioned, and now they stated that Christopher had actually left on his own accord. So even up to this day, we don't really know what actually happened, but I'm still more inclined to believe the original story.
Yeah, me too. Seems like they're just saving themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some shady things happening because once the whole thing played out, the owner of the bar actually ordered a gag order. So, meaning that no one could talk, I
Yeah.
think, from the staff about what they saw that Halloween
Pretty
night.
suspicious. It did seem like it wasn't the first time it happened. Do you think they already kicked a bunch of people out of the bar for similar circumstances?
I think I'm not sure about that. Obviously, we can only speculate, but there is one very interesting thing that I would like to bring up. Also, on this TV show, I kind of forgot what it's called. There was another person who was actually interviewed, and now this person claims to have been at that same exact bar that Christopher was last seen at 2 months prior to Chris's disappearance, and he actually got like roofied,
Ooh.
drugged at that bar, and that person even reported that some men were actually trying to get him into a vehicle out of that bar, but his close friends apparently stopped that from happening. So one way or another, we know that there's pretty shady things happening at the Lone Tree Bar and Grill.
Very suspicious.
Yeah, your take on that?
Just really suspicious.
Right. Another interesting thing that I would like to immediately point out. Now, it was very cold. I feel like it was 20. Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was 20 degrees, which is either +6 or -6 Celsius. I can't remember, but either way, it's cold.
Yeah.
Either way, it's cold, right? And now Christopher was only wearing his Halloween outfit. And we have a picture of Christopher here from the night that he disappeared, actually, which is very fascinating, right? And now we can look.
Oh, the material looks so thin.
Yeah, it's a Native American outfit that he's wearing, and that's all he had, basically. So,
That's not enough for the cold. Either +6 degrees Celsius or -6. Either way, the material looks so thin. It's not
it looks
enough.
too thin. On top of that, that outfit actually did not have any pockets. And he had left all of his valuables with his girlfriend because his Halloween outfit did not have pockets.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. Now, he then was apparently last seen heading north, but he did not return to his residence. Now, I looked at the map and I've looked where this bar is located, and apparently, if he would have continued walking north, he would have approached a bridge. Now, this is a big bridge. I don't recall the name of the bridge. Maybe it's going to be somewhere here in my notes later on the show, but one way or another, he would have to cross that bridge in order to get home. Now, there were CCTV cameras stationed kind of close to that bridge, and from that night, Christopher was not spotted crossing that bridge. But apparently, he was heading north towards home. But immediately, this is very suspicious to me because think of it from his perspective. He got just kicked out of the bar. He doesn't have his wallet, doesn't have his phone, his ID. It's all in the club. I feel like I would not, in that case, walk back home. I would try to talk to the security to try to get my stuff back. Don't you find it strange that in this very cold weather, at night basically, Christopher decides to go north, seemingly walking towards the direction of his home, but leaving his stuff behind? On top of that, I immediately have my thoughts about the girlfriend. Why is the girlfriend not walking out? Why are their friends not walking out? Obviously, these are kind of young people. Maybe they're just having a good time. I don't know. What's your take on all of this?
Well, we also have to consider that maybe Christopher actually tried doing that. Like, try talking to the security people about the stuff that he left behind. But the staff of that bar seemed very suspicious and probably didn't even bat an eye,
Yeah.
ignored Christopher, and so he had no choice but to go back home. And to answer your question about his friends, they're young, probably just out partying, didn't notice the time, didn't even notice Christopher was already missing from that bar. So I think it's pretty normal for them not to notice it. What do you think?
Yeah, I would generally agree with that. I think it's just young people having a night out,
Yeah.
a Halloween night and everything like that. Now, once Christopher did not return home that following morning, the family and his friends immediately became worried and concerned about his whereabouts, obviously. And a massive search was in effect, but he was not located. Now, on February 27th of the following year in 2003, which is approximately 4 months later,
Yeah.
his body was actually found in the Mississippi River beneath the 3rd Avenue Bridge.
Wait,
Yeah.
question.
Yes.
Is this the same bridge you were talking about? The same bridge he's gonna have to walk to go back home?
Actually, no. This is another adjacent bridge because how that particular portion of Minneapolis is spread out, it is laid out. There's actually two bridges that are fairly close to each other. And there's a dam actually in the Mississippi River. There's also a dam, so he would have had to cross the bridge basically that he would approach if he just headed directly north. But then there's another bridge, kind of to kind of paint a better picture. Let's say if he would have jumped off that bridge, that original bridge that he had to cross, then the current of the Mississippi River would put him a little bit like south, downstream towards that other bridge. So he was found there under the other bridge, which is also very close by. It's definitely walking distance. Everything's happening very close. I'm pretty sure I'm showing this on the map, and also I'm just gonna quickly whip out this. As you can see, we have two bridges here,
Yeah.
and now he was found somewhere in that general direction, closer to the dam.
Oh, that makes sense then.
Yes. So it's pretty fascinating because Christopher was still dressed in his Halloween costume 4 months later, with his oversized shoes still on, and his shirt was still tucked in his pants. He also still had a necklace on, a ring on the left index finger, and a ring on the right finger as well, right ring finger as well.
Interesting. It seems like he was preserved.
Preserved, very suspicious, because when a person commits suicide, usually, by jumping into a water, it's been kind of, I guess, proven, and it's observed a lot of the times that the clothes are not neat anymore, and usually actually the person will remove one or both of their shoes. Because what's happening when they hit the water and they start drowning, they will actually naturally try to pedal.
Yeah.
And by pedaling, they will actually remove their shoes, completely, unknowingly. But he had his shoes intact and just was placed in such a manner that it seemed that he was definitely placed there. His body was floating on his back with his arms folded across his chest. He had his own hair clenched in his left hand.
Was it really his own hair?
It was later tested for DNA. It was his own hair. And I just can't imagine how you would commit suicide and end up in that position on your back with your hands and arms crossed across your chest. Just doesn't seem realistic to me.
Yeah, it seemed like it was set up.
The medical examiner found no signs of foul play on his body. A police lieutenant said that the cause of death was listed as drowning. Apparently, Christopher had drowned. However, the manner of death was listed as unknown, but was thought to be an accident or suicide, and therefore the case was closed. The family did not like that. They protested the decision by the police to close the case, and they hired their own private investigators and they conducted their own research. Now, due to their efforts, many years later, I think 5 years later, in 2006, the case was reopened and re-registered as a homicide.
Ooh, interesting.
Because the new police chief, when he saw the additional information that the family had managed to gather, basically that person determined that this is a homicide. Now, blood alcohol was tested, and it was only 0.12%, which is not a lot of alcohol.
Tipsy?
I'm not sure if that's even tipsy.
Yeah, just probably drank like a couple of
Yeah.
beers, glasses. Not enough to make you feel drunk or tipsy.
Potentially, right?
Yeah.
And then GHB, the date rape drug, was apparently found. Now, I know you've done this research of a little bit, like a few days ago, so maybe these details are not super fresh in your memory, but do you recall, because I know you listed this information down, do you recall the weirdness that was happening with this particular detail, the GHB, the date rape drug that was found in his system? Because you wrote this down, so I know you remember. I know you looked into it. Probably don't remember anymore, because what was actually happening was that initially they found this date rape drug in his system, and they suspected that he was drugged, potentially at the bar. But later it was determined that his body was naturally producing GHB.
Yeah, I did remember that weirdness, but also we have to remember that there was another guy who reported the same thing from the same bar, remember?
Yeah, 2 months ago, yeah.
2 months prior Christopher's disappearance, where
Yeah.
he was also drugged.
That's
And
true.
That's
true.
very suspicious to me.
That's very suspicious, exactly.
I
Like,
mean, is there a coincidence that these two men were drugged in the same bar, like in the same place? Pretty suspicious, right?
it's definitely eyebrow raising stuff, right?
Exactly.
Now, a man on TV, Breaking Homicide. Okay, Breaking Homicide was the TV show I was referring to. Yeah, so this man claimed that he was drugged 2 months prior to Chris, and it was in the same bar. Now, the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis building is actually adjacent to the original bridge that I mentioned earlier,
Yes.
that he would have had to cross in order for him to get back home. They had CCTV cameras there, and when law enforcement checked the footage, they did not spot Christopher walking past that bridge. The bridge is called Hennepin Avenue Bridge. Hennepin Avenue Bridge. And so walking past it would have been the fastest way for Christopher to get back home. And he was last reported heading in the direction towards the bridge. But apparently he never ended up crossing the bridge. Now, the bridge goes over the same Mississippi River,
Yes.
which his body was also found in. So, strange, right?
Pretty strange. I agree.
He's walking north, left his personal belongings at the bar. We already established that that's, still makes some sort of a sense. Maybe he tried to get back into the bar but was unsuccessful.
Uh-huh.
So he just started walking home, which kind of makes sense because where else would you go at that point in the
Exactly.
night? But something happened and he didn't reach the bridge.
But
But he
how?
but he died.
Yeah, but how reliable are the CCTV footages? Because remember, this was 2002.
Yeah, but apparently I read somewhere that this was pretty reliable. You know why?
Oh.
Because this was the Federal Reserve Bank. And this is not
Yes.
this is a state institution
Uh-huh.
and you have to take this into account. This is happening in 2002, 1 year after 9/11, and I think that CCTV
Security is
cameras
high.
yeah, security is high, especially at like these kind of buildings like the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis. It's a pretty significant institution, so they definitely had probably the best kind of CCTV
Exactly. Yeah.
that was available,
That makes
right?
sense.
So I think they established, at least it was written in anywhere that I read, that Christopher definitely didn't walk past the bridge. Now, family hired a private investigator named Czech Loesch, and they also conducted their own research alongside the private investigator. And I kind of want to quickly go over the findings that will kind of paint even a more suspicious picture here. So, firstly, the staff at the Lone Tree Bar and Grill were questioned by the private investigator hired by the family. Now, the staff maintained that Christopher left the bar on his own accord, and the owner eventually issued a gag order.
I find that very suspicious, I'm not gonna lie. The fact that Christopher and this other guy were drugged in the same place, in the same bar, and then Christopher was kicked out without any, like, I don't know, show of emotions from the security people. And now the gag order just sounds pretty suspicious to me. Sounds like they're hiding something. Or maybe they're just very protective of their business. Who knows?
Yeah, I feel like maybe they're more protective of their business, like it kind of feels to me like the owner doesn't need this bad PR.
Yeah, but how would you explain that date rape drug then? In the same place? Coincidence?
No, definitely. I think something is happening there. I don't think the owner is necessarily in on it. Maybe someone from the staff, though.
Oh.
Who
Good
knows?
point, good point.
Now, speaking about the staff, I'm not sure if you will remember this, but there's a very weird kind of love triangle happening here because there was an off-duty police officer named Mike Casey, who was present in the bar on the Halloween night. And now he was flirty with Christopher's girlfriend,
Ashley.
Ashley.
Oh yeah, I remember this part. Remember Ashley apparently
Yeah.
borrowed the police officer costume for her sexy Halloween outfit.
Yeah, like some because this guy was actually a real police officer, and he gave the girlfriend something so she could wear, maybe like the police hat or something.
I was thinking something like the uniform.
The uniform, but like the man's uniform.
Yeah.
Pretty sure Mike Casey wasn't wearing a
Yeah.
a sexy.
Yeah, but maybe Ashley altered it. Had the permission to alter it to her size. Sexy police officer outfit.
Yeah, potentially, but this, it's a interesting. Now, the one thing that I was able to uncover was that Ashley also worked at that bar. Maybe not on the night, but apparently she worked in that building. Now, to give a better perspective to the people listening, and maybe to you, Rain, the building itself, it's actually a big building that has multiple, let's say, businesses. So it's not just the bar. There's other things happening inside of that building. So I think his girlfriend Ashley was also working at that building. And so she knew the police officer because the police officer was working maybe weeknights as a security guard. So that's how they knew about each other.
So basically, Ashley was cheating.
Well, I don't know. We don't have this information. It's all alleged.
Okay. Allegedly cheating.
Allegedly cheating, or who knows what's happening there, because that, I guess, would kind of explain why she didn't rush out to help out Christopher when he was kicked out.
Yeah.
And knowing that maybe this guy, there's actually speculation that this guy, Mike Casey, actually ordered the other security guards, because I think he was the main security guy, to kick Christopher out because he wanted to flirt with Ashley. Now, I think the family gave their take on this particular theory and they're not buying it.
Uh-huh.
So it's anyone's guess at this point.
Yeah. Any assumptions?
From my end,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that story kind of is credible, that the guy, Mike Casey, was actually being flirty. He was also allegedly even gave the girlfriend a ride home. So what kind of a girlfriend are you? Your boyfriend got kicked out, but you're accepting rides from different guys.
And
Na-
flirting.
Flirting.
Definitely a good one then.
Yeah, and then, I didn't really conduct full on research into this love triangle, but there's actually, it's like a love, it's not even a love triangle because there's another person coming into the picture. Apparently,
Oh, so 4 different people.
yeah, apparently, from what I understand, Christopher's ex girlfriend was also working at the bar.
Oh, jeez.
So,
This is so complicated.
yeah, it gets complicated, but this is where I kind of also stopped.
Uh-huh.
Because I just was thinking I'll focus on the other details. And if we're gonna jump into some more interesting things that happened, well, family actually hired canine units and 2 separate bloodhounds, dogs, basically, sniffer dogs, to track Christopher's scent from the Lone Tree Bar. And they actually tracked it. Both of these dogs tracked it to the Times Square Pizza and Subs, which is some sort of a restaurant. It's no longer there. I checked it on the maps, but it was across the street. And it was also the sniffer dogs tracked the scent to an underground parking garage next door. The scent ended in front of parking stalls 89 and 90. One of the bar's bouncers that was working that night was reportedly parked in one of those spots on that same Halloween night.
See? This is very suspicious.
It's very suspicious. And a bloodhound, one of the dogs, produced a mild hint for Chris's scent on this bouncer's vehicle. And then droplets of blood residue, as well as a piece of red string and red feather fragments, which possibly belonged to a headband of Christopher's Halloween costume, were also found in that same garage. So, really quickly, I want to take it back. A family ordered a canine dog search, and the dogs followed Christopher, and 2 different dogs. So you know that this is a credible finding because 2 dogs on 2 different occasions did the same exact thing. They both followed Christopher's scent towards a garage across the street where a bouncer from the bar was parking his car, and they found the scent on the vehicle. Both of them did that. And then there was blood residue, and on top of the blood residue there was on top of that
The
leather, right?
from the costume.
And now Chris, let's remember, was kicked out. Maybe there was a physical altercation because Christopher himself, he was a pretty buff guy. It seemed like to me like he wouldn't just kind of be a pushover. He
He doesn't
muscly.
look like a pushover. He didn't look like
He didn't. He looks like he had muscle on him,
Yeah.
So I could kind of see how a fight took place. So now we're suspecting that one of the bouncers may have done it.
Mm-hmm.
Now the private investigator spoke with multiple witnesses who actually recalled seeing a group of approximately 10 people attacking an unidentified person at that pizza joint across the street close to that parking lot in the early morning hours after Halloween night, though it is unclear if it was Chris who was getting attacked. Now, what's happening here is that it's suspected that it was a gang initiation. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but in America, when people join a gang, they get initiated, which they are basically beaten up.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the initiation. So, but we don't know. Maybe it was Christopher who was getting attacked.
Possibly. I mean, there are loads of possibilities at this point.
Exactly. Now, forensic pathologist, and we're gonna now jump to a little bit of a different kind of detail here. Forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Baden had issue with Christopher's body being found with his arms crossed in front of him because drowning victims who accidentally fall into water are generally found face down with their arms out towards their sides and their clothing disheveled and one or both of their shoes missing. This is because one's natural reaction when drowning is to vigorously paddle the feet and arms and swim. But Christopher's shirt was tucked into his pants, and his oversized slip-on moccasin shoes were still on his feet. This led to speculation that Christopher was allegedly dead when he was placed in the river.
Yeah. I heard a similar opinion. That sounds likely to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I also think that the way the body was found, it's
Exactly.
it's kind of indicative of someone placing his body already there. But once again, the body did not have any signs of foul play, so we also have to take that into account. And it was allegedly the law enforcement stated that he drowned initially.
Uh-huh. Pretty weird.
Pretty weird. Uh, Christopher's body didn't have any bruises, which is also weird to his family because he had played lacrosse prior to going missing, and now since he was a goalie, he would also always get bruised up. So family suspect that he was alive for a couple of days after going missing, just enough time for those bruises to heal up. On top of that, hydrologists from the dam that was adjacent to the place where he was found were skeptical that Christopher's body could have been in the water for 4 months without being seen. Also, yeah,
Question.
yes,
Wouldn't that make the body like bloated? Because drowning victims, or at least people who died from drowning, and they've been exposed in water for long periods of time,
yeah.
their bodies would start bloating and like puffing up.
I'm not really sure about that because I never really looked into it. But if that's the case, then once again, interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting because what was the state of his body when he was
I think it
found?
was pretty bad though. I suspect it was pretty bad. I suspect it was pretty bad. Also, a daytime thawing occurred on February 27th, on the same day that he was found. I think it's maybe when the ice melts or something happens. Now, this indicates that he possibly floated from another location. For example, he could have been stuck somewhere, maybe on the icier part of the Mississippi River. I don't know
Yeah.
if that even makes any sense, but apparently there's a chance that his body floated to that location. According to family research, Christopher's body did not fit with the suicide or accident theories held by law enforcement.
Yeah, it doesn't for me. Doesn't add up for me as well.
Yeah, and apparently the family even looked at the autopsy pictures,
Uh-huh.
and you could just imagine how gruesome it is to take a look at your son's basically pictures like that.
That's true.
And apparently they contacted a lot of experts and it didn't add up that this was an accident.
One impression I have of Christopher's family is that they're probably loaded.
With money, right?
Yeah, loaded with money because they went to a private investigator and hired like multiple people to work on the case all on their own.
That is true. I kind of also had that sense that they were well equipped to kind of conduct their own investigation, right? Christopher's death was eventually reclassified as a homicide, and then law enforcement held a press conference to issue a formal apology to the Jenkins family. However, law enforcement still seems undecided whether it was 100% a homicide because the police chief, in a recent, or at least as recent as I found, statement claims that he now thinks it's a 50% chance that it was a homicide and then another 50% chance that it was a potential accident.
What are the chances of a person drowning? What are the chances of him or of his body being found floating somewhere, um, fully dressed, and with his arms crossed on his chest?
Yeah, right.
That's very suspicious. So
I think very slim.
yeah, I don't think it's drowning or like a suicide, because the way that his body was set up, I mean, or was found, it was
Yeah.
obviously a setup, or someone must have done that to him.
Yeah. Now we have a very weird kind of eyewitness statement that happened 5 years later in 2006. An eyewitness to the crime, allegedly, who was someone in jail and reportedly facing felony charges for other crimes, stepped forward to claim he was present when Christopher was thrown off a bridge. The inmate told investigators that his acquaintance, after robbing Christopher and finding nothing of value, because let's remember all of Christopher's valuables were still inside of the bar, became angry and threw him off that original bridge that I talked about. Now, private investigator believes that it could not have happened in that bridge because the physical layout, which includes a steel beam and suspension cables, would have made it nearly impossible to throw someone over without injury because there was no foul play in his body. So, and then on top of that, the Federal Reserve CCTV cameras did not take this footage. Also, that bridge is apparently heavily traveled and nothing of this sort was reported. So I'm just gonna check it to a false statement by someone in jail.
Yeah, I agree.
And then I think we have ran the course of my notes. Really quickly, I'd just like to mention that initially law enforcement assumed that this was a suicide or even a potential suicide because there was a theory floating around early on that he had a fight with his girlfriend Ashley at the club, at the bar, and then he committed suicide because of that. But yeah, a lot of things don't add up to me in this case. Yeah, there was a speculation, right, that he actually was drunk, and yet and now that original bridge that he could cross over, right? Now it has a kind of an under bridge area,
Yeah.
and some speculated that maybe he did go take a pee, went to pee under the bridge. That would kind of explain, and then accidentally somehow drowned. That would kind of explain why he was not captured on CCTV, because he was walking in the direction towards the bridge, and in order to get home, he would have had to cross the bridge, so it makes sense for him to kind of walk in that direction and cross the bridge. But then maybe if he went under the bridge to quickly pee with the intentions of, reverting and going over the bridge after he had already peed, that would kind of make sense. Maybe something happened under the bridge and he kind of slipped or anything like that. So there was speculation about that. Now, once again, I found it very strange that he left his belongings at the bar. I just can't fathom why he did it. But
He was probably taken by force and then thrown out. He didn't have a chance to take his stuff.
he was, you're saying that he was potentially abducted from the bar.
No, I was saying like maybe the security people saw him, immediately assumed he's so drunk he pissed his pants, dragged him out of the bar immediately, and that he didn't have time to take his belongings.
Well, I think his belongings were with his girlfriend
Oh,
because
yeah.
he didn't have pockets in his costume, and he also didn't take
Yeah, I forgot
the
about
jacket, and then on top of that, he didn't have a jacket, which is strange because I think the security people would have given him his jacket at least, right?
that. Unless they're really angry.
Seems so, right?
Yeah.
Seems so. If the jacket was left, seems like there was some sort of animosity.
Exactly.
I feel like that, police officer who was
Mike
doing
Casey?
Mike Casey, flirting with a girlfriend.
Do you think there was a connection with the security people of that bar? Like, for example, was it somehow just the security of that bar? They were pissed at Christopher for like, I don't know, being drunk that night? Or was there an influence by Mike Casey?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because it's hard to say. We can only speculate, and I think it's definitely possible that there was a potential incident. All I'm gonna say is that I'm getting a sense of like animosity between the security and him, and he's a buff guy, and the security guys are also buff probably. So there's a lot of like kind of macho probably mentality going on, and then the way he was kicked out, and apparently he. Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to say, like, because obviously law enforcement didn't do a great job initially, but I think they would have at least questioned the bouncers and investigated their backstories. But then the fact that law enforcement didn't really take it super seriously, and that the sniffer dogs kind of tracked to one of the bouncers' car, and there was blood found there.
Interesting, right?
It's just interesting, and I would say it's definitely a weird coincidence. And now I also want to bring up your side of the research, which you probably had forgotten, but I could quickly read it.
Yes, please.
There's a man named Jeremy Lynn Alford who is a suspect in this case. It was reported that this man was at the bar during that Halloween night as well. A retired police chief also confirmed the name and stated that this man, Jeremy, had information on the murder unknown to the public. Jeremy is now serving time in Minnesota jail for murdering a man named Douglas Miller in 2005 along with his brother. Apparently, they killed a man who they were living with, and it was very vicious. A police informant from Breaking Homicide actually contacted Jeremy using a female alias named Lindsay. They were pretending to be a woman to talk to this guy. And Jeremy basically said that he knew basically this basically informant pretending to be a woman asked Jeremy if he knew anything about Christopher's case, and he replied with, "I don't want to talk about anything I haven't been convicted of." So, not good, right?
Not good at all.
And then the guy's pictures also look like he's definitely like like someone you want to avoid.
That's true.
So it's like, seems to me that,
Do you think it's connected?
yeah, I think so at this point, right? This guy knows information that's not.
Do you think he did it or he knew someone who did it?
I think both possibilities are.
It's both possible, right?
Yeah, both ways it's possible. This is like the same guy who viciously killed a man. Like 4 years later.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
could have been involved, right? And then the last theory would be the smiley face killer theory, because it's a body of water.
It always pops up, right? This
Well,
theory. I
in,
meant.
I mean, every time there's a young white man from college
Mm-hmm.
who dies next to a body of water, and it's always being brought up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't personally believe that it's a real thing, the smiley face killers. But once again, I didn't really even look into them, so I can't really talk much. But it just seems like a crazy idea that someone's leaving like smiley graffitis and killing college men,
Yeah, that's
white
true.
men. It's pretty strange, right?
Oh, by the way, as I was doing the research, I did not see any mentions of a smiley face graffiti in the whole Christopher Jenkins case.
Yeah, but I feel like they're probably so common, the smiley face
Yeah,
graffiti,
that's
that you
true.
could find it anywhere. You know what I mean? So there's probably at least a couple there somewhere. So I guess it could make some sense. So yeah, I mean, this is it. This is what we have. Christopher Jenkins, your thoughts initially? Do you want to have? Do you want to kind of try to make sense of this whole case?
Well, not particularly, but I am highly suspicious of the people in the bar. Between the suspect and the people at the bar, I'm betting my money on the people in the bar. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say so too. I mean, for me, it's strange. Christopher is kicked out of a bar for unknown reasons. We don't know if he really did look like he pissed his pants, or if he left her on his own accord. But why would he leave on his own accord, leave the wallet and everything behind?
Exactly.
And where would he go without a jacket in his costume in the middle of the night? So
And it's a bar, right?
it's a bar.
Numerous people have, I don't know, threw up there, did probably the worst kind of thing in there, but the way that they threw or kicked out Christopher,
That's a good point.
it seems like there's a lot of like tension.
Tension, then the bloodhounds
They
se-
didn't exactly
following the scent to one of the guys' car.
exactly right, and they didn't even let Christopher take his jacket, or at least call Ashley, the girlfriend, to give his stuff back. Nothing at all.
Yeah, nothing at all. So I kind of suspect, yeah, that someone's close to the bar kind of did it. I think there could have been an altercation. It was a night.
Yeah.
Maybe Christopher had a fight with someone at the bar. Maybe by accident this person killed Christopher somehow. But once again, it was strange because Christopher's body had no foul play indications.
That's true.
So
Do you think the drug killed him?
I mean,
Overdose?
there's a chance, right? Maybe it was a drug overdose. I mean, we would have to kind of look into the autopsy pictures, because once again, family members see that the findings do indicate a homicide. So maybe there was actual foul play. Maybe the initial person who did the autopsy or whatever, maybe they messed up. Maybe there was clear signs of foul play.
Yeah, perhaps.
So yeah, and I think anything's possible at this point. I feel like someone knows, definitely. Someone from that bar kind
Oh,
of connection.
definitely.
Yeah, someone definitely knows something, I would say, or at least I'm getting the hint. But yeah, this was the Christopher Jenkins death case we talked about. And yeah, any final thoughts?
I think I already voiced it out. Any
Yeah,
final thoughts?
yeah,
on your
same
end?
here. Nah, I'm good. So please, guys, leave your take in the comment section of the YouTube channel
Oh yeah, tell us what you think
about the case, and we're
about the
gonna
people at the bar.
people at the bar. Yeah, we're gonna be looking into some other cases very soon. And yeah, very bizarre case. I feel very sad for the family members,
Of course.
and hopefully we will find some answers eventually in this case.
Yeah, hopefully.
And yeah, I guess that's it for us. I enjoyed talking about this case today. And guys, please have a nice rest of the week. And catch us on our next podcast episode. Gonna be coming out hopefully sooner this time.
Yeah. See you very soon.
See you. Bye.
Bye.